Now, more than ever, we are all likely thinking about the various ways that life as we know it could end. Truth be told, our world could end at any given moment without any warning or preparation. This could be from a massive asteroid collision or even a nuclear strike. There are many different possibilities, but today we will be discussing 10 things that could end the world overnight. But before we get going, don't forget to hit that like button and ring the notification bell. Otherwise, a giant space rock will crash into your bed while you're sleeping tonight. Number 10. Climate change. We can all argue what is causing climate change until we are blue in the face.
Oh my God!
However, what we cannot argue is whether or not climate change is taking place. Spoiler alert, climate change is very real, and it's super dangerous to humans and life on Earth. For many decades, scientists have been working to warn government agencies and citizens that we are at great risk of the world's global temperatures rising about 2 degrees Celsius permanently until we make major changes to our ways of life. This minor change could cause major issues in our day-to-day lives and would affect wildlife, plant life, and human life in ways that we cannot even imagine. Though in this particular case, we aren't going to be talking about this small of a change. There is a chance that our global temperatures could rise as much as 6 degrees Celsius or 10 degrees Fahrenheit permanently. This could cause various animals and insects to die within a matter of months, their population being wiped out permanently. Fruits and vegetables would be unable to grow due to the dramatic increase in heat, and sea levels would gradually begin to rise, never returning to their former levels. This would cause flooding in most areas of the world and leave humans with very little ground to run to. These are only a few of the potential issues we may face, and to be honest, we truly have no idea how bad things could get or how quickly these changes may take place. Number 9. Global pandemic. Considering the strange times we are living in, the idea of a global pandemic wiping out a large portion of civilization is truly terrifying. We have lived through terrible pandemics such as Black Death or the Spanish flu of 1981. Our modern medicines have advanced far beyond what we could have ever imagined, and we all likely feel safer now than we ever have. Though the threat of a global pandemic is always lurking around the corner, especially considering we are living in the midst of one of the most awful medical crises the world has ever seen. We most likely survived the aforementioned pandemics due to restrictions on travel. It was quite uncommon for humans to be able to travel great distances within a short time. However, we are now capable of simply boarding a flight and flying halfway across the world before nightfall. This means that many life-threatening illnesses can be spread across the world in a matter of hours. As we are all now painfully aware, these illnesses are often slow to die off and can infect millions of people in a matter of months, weeks, or days. Number 8. Nuclear war. In addition to the pandemics we have faced in the past, we have also been faced with the threat of a global nuclear war. While the United States has been at the forefront of nearly all nuclear attacks, North Korea has also been to blame for the threat of a potentially world-altering blast. Being attacked by a nuclear weapon is so improbable that most war veterans do not even consider it to be a possibility. However, we have no idea how many countries may be holding on to nuclear weapons in case of a national emergency. Even though several treaties have been signed that prohibits nuclear warfare, we know that dozens of countries are currently in possession of nuclear missiles. All it takes is a poor judgment call from an elected official to cause the civilization to turn upside down in a matter of minutes. Number 7. Economic crisis. Most of us are familiar with the Great Depression of the 1920s and 1930s. We often look back on this time in history as being nothing but a memory, unlikely to ever take place again. However, our local and global economies are much more fragile than we may believe. Very small changes in pricing or availability of certain products such as food or oil could cause our city, state, or country to collapse, economically speaking. This could cause major changes in bankruptcy rates, poverty, and unemployment. With these changes, many people will likely be unable to afford necessities and may be forced to resort to more dangerous and illegal methods to feed themselves or their families, causing serious issues with crime and violence. People could very quickly begin to starve to death or run out of medically necessary supplies and be forced into a decline in health. These economic turndowns could pose a major existential threat for humans, and we could be wiped off the face of the earth in a matter of years or months if we have no time to prepare. Number 6. Asteroid Impact. Asteroids are believed to be floating aimlessly in space at any given moment, though some of these giant rocks fly a little too close to a planet's orbit and can be sucked into the planet's orbit, potentially sending them plummeting toward the planet, causing devastating damage. Many scientists believe that this is what happened about 66 million years ago that caused the mass extinction of many animals that once roamed the Earth, more specifically dinosaurs. While we cannot completely prove this, it is widely accepted as a fact in the scientific community, though others believe that the dinosaurs may have been brought to extinction by a massive volcanic burst, but that's another story for another time. The problem with asteroids is that we have a difficult time predicting when they may enter our orbit. NASA and other scientists worldwide have gotten a lot better at predicting this behavior from the mysterious rocks, but they are not yet 100% confident in their abilities to defend human life from a major outer space threat such as a giant asteroid. While we can rest assured that we will most likely have at least a little bit of time to prepare for such a major impact, we cannot say with any certainty that humans will survive such an incredible disaster. Number 5. Synthetic biohazards. There has recently been a lot of talk about synthetic bioattacks against the entire human race. This is largely because conspiracy theorists tend to believe that the infamous virus that has been spreading around may have been caused by a bioengineer intentionally releasing the virus into the wild, though we have virtually no evidence to back up these claims. What we do know is that creating such a virus is well within the realm of possibility, and if it hasn't happened already, there's a chance that a rogue scientist may pursue this endeavor in the future. Bioengineering is one of the most complicated areas of scientific study. It requires decades of research and millions of dollars of funding each year. Though what would happen if a scientist managed to have enough equipment at his disposal to create a harmful pathogen without his peers knowing about it? Furthermore, what would happen if this horrible pathogen were released into the wild, infecting millions or billions of people? We've all become aware of how easily a virus can spread. But imagine one that was far more powerful than the current pandemic that is sweeping the globe. Words could not describe the turmoil that humanity would be left with. Number 4. Supervolcano. Volcanoes erupt quite often, but large volcanoes will typically only erupt once every few decades or every few hundred years. Though, if we look back in the Earth's history, science indicates that a supervolcano erupted millions of years ago and likely caused up to 90% of the Earth's life forms to go extinct. These eruptions shoot tons of ash into the atmosphere and cause global cooling effects that could potentially spawn another ice age. While this threat is quite minimal, it is certainly possible that we could face another major volcanic event, and we are almost entirely unprepared for such a catastrophe to take place. Number 3. Nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is a relatively new field of scientific and technological research. This form of technology could be highly beneficial to human life, though it could also end all human life if research and data get into the wrong hands. Using what we already know about nanotech, a team could create technology that is capable of rapidly extracting uranium and using the chemical to create atomic bombs. It is also possible that self-replicating nanotech could take over the world and leave us with virtually no resources to live on. It's difficult to understand theories about the threats of nanotech since it is such a new field of study, but we know that it could cause massive issues for society if the wrong person gets involved. Number 2. Poor government decisions. One of the most realistic yet vague threats on this list is the possibility of global governments failing to properly regulate new technologies, such as artificial intelligence or nanotech. We know that these technologies can take over the world, but they are usually kept at bay because there are strict regulations on their production. Though, if there were any loopholes in the laws, or if citizens failed to abide by the proper laws and rules, we could have a serious mess on our hands. Number 1. Artificial intelligence. It's with that we bring ourselves to the most obvious threat that humanity faces: artificial intelligence. AI is one of the newest technologies we have, and it is becoming available virtually everywhere. AI can teach itself new skills and abilities and monitor how humans interact to better understand how we live our lives and how we think. If this technology gets too smart, it could spiral out of control and enslave the human race, or at least make our lives miserable. This may sound like some sort of sci-fi fantasy, but it is a very real and grim reality that we may one day face. You can never be too careful with technology, especially when it can think for itself and question authority.